Mr. Julian Stroman, as said by Ms. Miller and Mr. Miller, would keep large quantities of money in his jacket pocket in those envelopes. I dealt with Mr. Jewell on a daily basis. He would keep the money in his jacket pocket, and when he would cash his check, we would come back to the plumbing company, which was Orangeburg Plumbing, and we would take the money from his bank envelope that he just received, and he kept his money in individual envelopes listed 5s, 10s, 20s, 50s, 100s. We would take that money out, and we would divide it into the envelopes that he had. That way he could easily reference money if he went in, because his hands were not, he had arthritis or whatever it was that made his hands the way they were. He could not handle money very well. So those envelopes, half the time when I was dealing with him, I'd throw them away. The other half the time, they would go in my pocket if they were empty.
And these were...
And then also, when they came out with the Social Security change, saying that they could no longer send out a check, that it had to be direct deposited, I took multiple chances at talking to Ms. Miller. I believe Ms. Peggy Bear, the accountant at the office, also did as well, about the deadline having to do that. When we reached the deadline, on the last day of the deadline, I talked to Ms. Miller. She was not able to make that call to transfer it over. She asked me to. When I called them, the Social Security office, to be precise, I called the Social Security office. They told me that I had to have the numbers off of their checks, from their Social Security checks, to be able to go through with the transfer. And I also had to have Julian Stroman and Evelyn Stroman get on the phone and verify my eligibility through them to be able to make that transaction for them. So what they had me do was go to the house, into the kitchen, where Miss Evelyn used to keep a big basket next to the door, and she would dump all those empty envelopes into it. What I did was went in, grabbed a handful of envelopes, and took them back to the office, and we went through them right there on Peggy Bear's desk to find out the information that we needed to transfer their accounts.
And that's how they ended up in your house?
Because I was putting them in my pocket.
Okay. That's how they ended up in your truck?
And then also, when Miss Miller came to the house, I can't remember how, in a specific date it was, she was talking about that basket that was on the kitchen counter, and she asked me to clean it out for her. The first attempt, all I did was take them out of the basket and put them in the trash, because the trash can was in a slide cabinet directly under that basket. When I put them in the trash can, Miss Evelyn saw them, grabbed them back out, and put them back in the basket. So the only way for me to actually dispose of them was to remove them from the house.